Department and started the Explorer program there. Captain Brent Burton is with LA County and has started a couple of different programs that I'm very excited. Brent has really reached down to the younger generation and has gotten things started in elementary school. And Darren Hyson is with the Austin Fire Department. Darren was initially involved with some of the activities at the LBJ program and has started the and coordinates the Explorer program that's now taking place. One of the things that comes up is that we throw around the terms Explorer and Cadet programs, and I think that sometimes it's confusing. We use those terms interchangeably, but not necessarily. Josh, can you give me a kind of a definition and the difference?
Absolutely. You know, I know there's a lot of different departments, there's a lot of different jargon that people use, where some people refer to their, you know, entry-level firefighters or recruits as cadets. Some people refer to them as recruits. For our specific cadet program, it's actually a youth hiring program. So all of our cadets are actually hired straight out of high school, and they are actually paid a wage while they go through all of their initial training, whereas other individuals use their cadet program to describe high school-based programs or maybe extracurricular programs that are run, you know, once a month through the Boy Scouts of America. So there's a lot of different jargon that goes on. So I typically, you know, try to emphasize too that ours is actually a job and that our cadets do actually receive a wage for their work and training in the Milwaukee Fire Department.
That's great. Thanks, Josh. Josh, while we've got you on, can you talk a little bit about the Milwaukee program?
Absolutely. We actually ran our program initially from 1995 to 2005, and it was designed as a tool to increase diversity in the Milwaukee Fire Department. In 2005, we actually ceased running the program. It went through a lot of different revisions, and we were able to bring it back last year for our first class, which is actually in training right now. The cadet program that we run is actually for high school graduates. They can apply up to 19 years old, so they can be about a year out of high school. We do run them through a full testing process, oral, physical agility, written test, and it is competitive. They are ranked. And then we take the top bunch. We do medical, psychological evaluations, and we actually hired 13 this year. For next year's class, we're actually going to do 2 batches of 13 for a total of 26 fire cadets.
That's great. Thank you. Brent, can you talk a little bit about what's going on down in LA County?
Absolutely. I see on the screen you have our Junior Fire Cadet program up. This program was started through one of my colleagues. He's now Assistant Chief at the LA Fire Department at an elementary school in the mid-city area of Los Angeles. And the whole idea was to get kids together at the elementary school level and provide positive role models through the fire department, through firefighters, to talk to them about life skills, discipline, dreaming about their future. It wasn't so much to really drive them into the fire service, but just to give them some kind of standards and boundaries. You know, kids really they really need to have some type of boundaries and some type of direction, and that's what we provide in the program and help them focus on their schoolwork and other things. So now we've continued that program for several years, and that's what we're doing at the elementary school level is our Junior Fire Cadet program. At the high school level, we have what's called the Future Firefighter program, and that's for young people between in the 9th through 12th grade, and what you have pictured here is one of our explorers. In fact, this young man here, Juan, was a fire explorer with the LA Fire Department, County Fire Department at my station, but I hardly saw Juan. But when I went to his school, which is behind my station, Morningside High School, Juan would show up and appear and go, "Hey, Captain Burton." I'm like, you know, where you been? So when we started the Future Firefighter program, Juan was one of my most faithful students, and it really energized his batteries to get back into the program. And we were able to sponsor him through what's called the LA Metro Fire Academy that the LA City Fire Department operates, and they allowed us some spots. And so through the Future Firefighter program, we really introduced the kids more to the career of the fire service, more on issues affecting them in terms of life skills. We also partner with the police department, and we bring the police department and to have them go over safety and survival skills in the event of traffic stops, in the event of some issues that they may have with the police and some challenges that they really don't understand, because a lot of times we have gang activity, we have shootings, and people always wonder, well, what happened? Well, we didn't take the time to figure out if the kid really knew what they were doing. So that's one area of subject matter expertise we bring the cops in to assist us with in the whole life skill program. So our Future Firefighter program bridges the kids in high school to our Explorer program. And once they get into the Explorer program, the program is self-sufficient to have them on their way to becoming firefighters. And so that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what we have in LA is a Junior Fire Cadet program, and then the Future Firefighter program that can be run in middle schools and also high schools. And we create this whole curriculum based on the needs that we saw kids needing from our experiences, our observations, talking with law enforcement officers, teachers, and some parents.
And one of the things that I was really taken about when I first had a chance to learn about the program from Brent is that they've really taken a look kind of at the circle of life. In the materials that you can download that are available to you that give an overview of each of the programs that you're going to hear about today, there's kind of a chart that really shows how young people can progress through the different stages and at different ages. And one of the things that Brent just said, but I really want to reinforce, is that this is as much about youth development programs as getting people into the fire service down the road. And even if somebody chooses not to go into the fire service as a career or become a volunteer, they really understand and have a great deal more knowledge about what the fire department does. So please see the opportunity to be growing advocates as well as future firefighters.
Yes.
Darren.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Doing great.
Can you talk a little bit about the Explorer program?
I'd be glad to. We have down in Austin Explorer Post 370, which is sponsored by the Austin Fire Department. We have about 15 students composed of 3 high schools, for those that are familiar with it, Lanier, LBJ, and Reagan. And we try to recognize what the Learning for Life goals are when we work with our explorers, which are between the ages 14 and 20, and they can stay in up until their 21st birthday. And we try to incorporate the principles that the Learning for Life tries to promote nationwide, as well as keeping in mind that this is a fire explorer program, so we try to expose them to as many different aspects of firefighting possible. We have regular meetings. We work with the command staff in the department as much as possible. They really support us with facilities and things of that nature to help with the students. And we're growing. I really could go into a lot of detail, but I see right now we're pretty much getting a summary of each of our programs. But we have both young men and young ladies in the program, and they're really a great group of students. And we're actually pretty involved in community service and fire service education to the public as well.
That's great. Darren, how many total members of the post?
We have 15 at this time.
Okay. And how are you doing in a mix and match between young men and young women?
We have about 90% men and 10% women, young ladies. Our young lady, we had a couple, but one had to relocate out of town, and still keeps in touch with us.
Okay, great. Next, I'd love to introduce Melody. Melody, I met Melody in 2006, I think, or 2007. She was in the first class, also in Austin, Texas. They have a high school program. And Melody graduated #1 in her class and went on to the University of Texas. And Melody, it sounds like the experience made a mark on you, and you want to come back and take a look at fire.
Yeah, definitely. I had a great time in the LBJ Fire Academy, and it was probably the best decision I made in high school because you learn so much, not just fire skills, but life skills. So, did you want me to talk about the LBJ Fire Academy?
That'd be great.
So it was started in 2006, and the LBJ High School is actually a mix. There's two schools, the LASA Magnet School and LBJ High School. Students from both schools are welcome to apply to get into the academy, and it runs the junior year and senior year. As long as you have a 2.5 cumulative high school GPA, then you can apply. And we had instructors from the Austin Fire Department teaching the class.
Melody, I think that your story is really interesting in that you had thought about another career opportunity, and I know that your parents had something to say. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So I guess one of the reasons I decided to get involved in the Fire Academy was because I was interested in a medical career and becoming a doctor. And there's one semester of the academy which is an EMT portion. So after I graduated high school, I went on to college to pursue that career, and I did all my pre-med requirements. But after I graduated, I started thinking that I would really like to pursue a career in the fire department. So I'm currently in the process of getting into the Austin Fire Department, and I've kind of put medical school on the back burner, which it's still an option, but at this point I can really just see myself being a firefighter and really enjoying this as a lifelong career. And my parents, of course, really wanted me to be a doctor. They're pretty, I guess they're scared because the fire department is a very physical career and dangerous at times. So it definitely took some persuasion, and they are worried about me, but at the same time they want me to do what will make me happy. It definitely took time for them to come around and get to that point, but now they're on board and they see that this is something that I really want to do and support me.
That's great. Thank you. So let's kind of go through some of the questions that we've got. And again, I really want to encourage participants, if there are some specific things that you want addressed, some challenges that you're facing in your department, please chat those in, and we will get them to the panel members. Panel, if I ask a question and you've got a response, please identify yourself so people know who you are, and if you can just say your name and what city or department you're from, that would be great. People can reference that. And just for the people who are in on the webinar, all the panelists have agreed that they're more than happy to help support you in any way that they can after the webinar. So let's talk a little bit about recruiting students to your program. Josh, how do you go about recruiting students to the Milwaukee program?
Well, we actually use a very, very involved approach with the high schools. We keep a full list, and just for reference, the city of Milwaukee is about 600,000 people. We have around, maybe around 100 or so high schools of various sizes. Some are extremely large, 2,000 students. Some have graduating classes in the teens. But we, in essence, try to hit every single high school at least once. The larger high schools we try to hit multiple times. We try to go for at least 3 in the bigger high schools. And we try to really connect with the popular teachers at the bigger high schools or the coaches. I know some of the schools, the guidance counselors have a very, very different focus. So sometimes that works out, but a lot of times we find that relationship really doesn't. And it's really a really popular math teacher or a basketball coach or a librarian who really connects with the students. So in essence, we try to spend a lot of time in the classroom. We tend to shy away from lunch hours where kids are being more social, because we find that you really only get the kids who have that stereotypical interest in firefighting. when we're in the classrooms, we do a lot more explaining about the cadet program, about a career in modern firefighting, about all our different promotional opportunities, and we find that it actually interests a lot of people. All the work that we do in medicine really gets that interest going. And this year we actually developed classroom lessons on diabetes, which some science teachers really received really well. As far as recruiting goes, we got last year about 750 or so, give or take, applications from kids who are eligible. And then just as reference, for our area, we actually calculated based on our census, we would have had about 10,000 kids in our age range. So that's a little bit less than 10% of the total kids who are eligible. You have to remember that, keep in mind that that's all kids, in that age range. So it's a pretty good turnout, we felt, for general interest in the fire service as a whole.
And Josh, in terms of diversity, do you have any kind of tracking to know of the 750 plus students, how that breakout was? Are you able to tap into some more underserved, underrepresented populations?
Absolutely. And just from the general makeup of our city, it's kind of easy. We have schools that are very heavy on some ethnicities and others. Last year, of our applicants, I want to say in the 60 or 70% range was African American. About 10% were individuals of Hispanic origin. Maybe 5 to 8% of Asian origin. About 30% of our initial applicants were women, and those numbers kind of dwindled down. And one of the issues that we're working with this year is trying to get to the parents and get the parents more involved. I always tell people that when I told my mother I was going to be a firefighter, she cried. She had a full-on conniption fit. So it's really important to make sure that the parents are involved and supportive and understanding of what their children are choosing to look at as a future career.
So in Milwaukee, you've done a more broad-based kind of recruitment. Brent, in Los Angeles, are you doing broad-based or targeted? And again, you're working with a younger population there.
Yeah, we're working with the elementary schools. Pretty much what happens is our schools, the populations are just pretty much either African American or Latino. And that's what we find in all of the South LA schools, Southwest LA schools, where we work. And so for the future firefighter program, the same thing there. A lot of Latino and African Americans in those groups. And so in the area that we really target in Los Angeles proper, the basin we call it, the metro area, it's pretty much mostly just those two populations. There's not a lot of Asian kids that gravitate to the program, and not a lot of white kids that gravitate to the program, mainly because their populations are pretty small in this part of town.
Any specific things, Brent, in terms of recruitment that you have found to be successful with the younger age population?
Yes, what they like is action. It's one thing to have kids come to a meeting or come to an orientation and they just see somebody up there talking in uniform. Well, that might be impressive to the older folks, but to kids, it's just another person talking with the costume on. So what we like to do is try to engage them with some kind of kinesiology, some movement, and at least that's the terms that one of the PhDs in the room said to us when we did our program that we called the show. And the show is where we kind of get kids engaged with our program. We show them a little 5-minute action video with some hip-hop music to kind of get them excited. And then we take volunteers from the audience, when we're doing a session in like an auditorium, and we have them sit down in chairs. And we'll have 3 or 4 young men in the chairs sitting up on the stage, and they're sitting in front of fire gear that's already there. So our firefighters have already put down their turnout gear, their helmets, breathing apparatus, it's all on stage, and they're in the back of the room in their regular work uniform. And on my cue, we play this fire dispatch followed by some really energetic music, and the firefighters literally run down the aisle, jump up on stage, and get suited up in front of everybody. And the crowd just goes crazy. And once the guys are fully suited up, they look at the kids in the chairs, and they grab them, snatch them up over their shoulders, and they all do a right face and walk off the stage, and it blows everybody away. And from that, kids just start flocking to us at the end, and then we pretty much ended on that note. If there are not any more questions, and kids just flock to us, and they want to know more about the program, how can I get involved, and so that really excites them. And that's the kind of things that we're doing to kind of engage the kids, to show them the action part of it, not just talking at them.
And one of the things that I really want to highlight, Brent, about what you said is that you are understanding and going to a level where the young people are at.
Yes.
So it's really this recruitment effort, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school. I think one of the important things for people who are on the call to understand if you're putting a program together or if you're trying to reach out is that you need to make the adjustment to where the kids are at. It's not. It doesn't work to expect just because they're interested they're going to make adjustments to where you're at. It's kind of a meeting at a common ground. But as I said before, this is really about youth development.
Absolutely.
Darren, do you do targeted recruitment in Austin, or are you kind of a more general approach?
We are actually very active in recruiting in and around Austin. And I'd be happy to share some of our successful strategies.
That'd be great.
One of the first places we tried to be active in is the schools. We worked with the faculty there on their career days, parent-teacher nights. We'd have a table or a booth set up to make sure that we were seen by not only the students but the parents as well. On career days, which we recently had, when all the seniors were pulled together in the cafeteria, we'd go there and speak about the benefits as well of being a part of our program. But I wanted to save these last two strategic tips for last because they have proven to be the most successful. The first one is event exposure. Our explorers are excited when we're out in the public eye, when we are out doing smoke detector installations. The community sees them. Students of other schools that aren't even in our district see them and come and ask, hey, how do I become a part of that? When they see the confidence that our young people demonstrate when they speak to folks explaining what they're doing and why they're doing it, impresses other young folks, and it causes them to say, hey, I want to be a part of that. When they are putting on a demonstration, whether it be skills or putting on PPE, it really draws the attention of their peers, and that's caused many folks to want to be a part of it. Similar to like an athlete performing in a high school football game or something. A student may say, you know, I want to be one of those. It's a similar impact that we've had when we have our explorers participate in different activities. And then the last one is basically sharing them what benefits they will obtain currently and in the future. When we talk to a student, if you talk to a young person and you try to encourage them to be a part of anything, they're going to ask, what's in it for me? What benefit is it going to be to me? Because if you tell them, well, this will help you out, it's a good thing, most aren't going to buy that. They want to know, well, how can I benefit right now? And we are prepared to answer that question, and we've demonstrated through action. Our explorers have gotten CPR certification, which can be tied into income, summer jobs, where they can look at their peers, and a person who doesn't have a certification may not get paid as much, in most cases don't, as one of our explorers who has CPR certification, and they get employment. Also, we are working with the department and planting seeds to hopefully have them receive points as far as the hiring process. We're not at that point yet, but what we explain to the explorers now is we can expose them to different firefighters to see the confidence level that they have, and that can certainly help with being known and being familiar with the career, with the firefighters, with the command staff. We go and practice down at the Fire Department Training Academy. They're familiar with the equipment and the facilities, and so all these are benefits which build confidence when they get to the point and get old enough to actually apply. We want to try to give them every fair edge possible through education. So the benefits that they currently have and in the future has been a big draw to keeping them a part of our post.
That's great. That's great. So now I'm really curious. We've heard from people who are starting and coordinating the programs. Melody, how is it that you ever got interested in signing up for the LBJ Fire Academy?
Well, when they first introduced the program, they gave us like a list of activities that we would be doing, the categories and topics that we would be learning, and that really appealed to me. Of course, there's days where you have lecturing, but they had activities like rappelling and fighting fire that really piqued my interest. So I've always kind of been like a hands-on learner, and they advertised the class as a hands-on class, which it was, and just I guess the things that get my peers and the things that got my peers and I interested were the activities that we would ultimately be doing, the goals that we were working towards. So of course everyone was excited to fight fire and do special things, I guess, that a normal high school student wouldn't get to do in a normal classroom setting.
But were you a jock in high school? I mean, did you participate in a lot of physical activities? Were you an athlete? I mean, this just seems like, oh, wow, all of a sudden somebody comes and talks about a Fire Cadet program at a high school. How did you hear about it?
I think they did a really good job of talking about the LBJ Fire Academy and all the classrooms, because they really wanted to get good exposure for the first year. And I guess I wouldn't really call myself a jock. I was on the swim team, and actually before the swim team, I really hadn't been a part of any sports teams. But just something about the academy interested me, and I think they really did do a good job of going through every classroom and telling the students about it and the benefits and what we would get to learn as a part of the academy, and I just got hooked.
So, I think we might have lost you, Melody.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Okay. Sorry, where did I leave off?
Well, you were just talking about how you had gotten involved. I was going to ask, you said that the other teachers were really supportive of this. So does that mean that it wasn't just firefighters or people from the fire department that were encouraging, but rather there were some other messengers in the high school that got involved in helping to spread the word?
I think so. I mean, the firefighters were the main recruiters, but the teachers and the administrators all thought it was a really good program, and it really added like a new aspect to our high school, so that it was encouraged by the teachers and administrators as well.
Hey, Larry.
Okay. So I think that that's a really important point. Yes.
Larry,
Go ahead.
This is Brent Burton speaking. I was going to follow to what Melody was talking about as far as what drew her, and I saw a comment pop up from Mark Pound about hands-on, and I think that's very important to mention. As we said earlier with the kids, they like the action, but what I found with our high school programs, kids really did engage in the hands-on aspect of it, and that's one of the things they really, really wanted more of. They said they wanted more hands-on, more things to physically do, that they were learning, the manual dexterity of our job. They really, really did gravitate to that, and I think that sounds like what Melody was saying, what kind of drew her to that, the whole excitement piece of it, was when you physically take folks out and show them hose lines or ladders, and they're touching things, tying knots, they're engaged in something they can see actually moving. And I think kids really, especially high school kids, they respond to that very well, because it's a new area for them. Where in the fire service we get real used to those things, so we do them all the time, but for kids this is still brand new and opening their eyes. So I think it's real important to mention that.
That's great. Thank you. I think the other thing that, Melody, you spoke to and that was touched upon with the other panel members is identifying the right messengers to take the word out. And in some cases it's going to be firefighters, but it might also be somebody else who is influential in their lives. So building those partnerships and getting the right messenger to take it out, I think, is real important. Brent, you had talked to me when we chatted before the session about how you use the older kids to go into the elementary school. Can you just say a couple of words about how that works?
Sure. Actually, one of the older kids is my son, my youngest son, who's 18. He's a fire explorer with the LA Fire Department. And one day I said, why don't you just come with me? He said, okay. He had no expectations of what we were doing, our junior fire program. I said, put your uniform on, come on down. So I was going to have him help me hand out shirts and books and things like that. Well, as he was watching me teach the class and teach the students, he got inspired, and he actually had a story to share on an incident he was on. And I had him share the story. And once he did, the kids asked questions, and it opened up a whole new world for him. Now he can't wait to come to the program. He can't wait to assist the junior fire cadets. He's asking me if he can do things with them. I'm like, sure. So it's almost like peer-to-peer, even though the peers are a little bit there's a gap in their age level from 10 years old to 18 years old. But it does encourage and inspire the older folks to share what they know with others. It helps them feel empowered. And I think it's a really good aspect. We want to also take the older kids in our high school program into the smaller schools, the kindergartner level, to read to the kids, to read books to them, have them in uniform, have them reading, especially during the Dr. Seuss Read a Book Month. We want to do that, or just do it without having that type of activity going on. Anytime we can walk into class and just expose the high school kids to the younger kids, and they can teach them and show them, that really inspires and motivates those high school kids.
That's great. We got a question from one of the webinar attendees. Mark Pound had asked, what happens if where the high school that you're recruiting is located in another department's area? And Mark, if I understand the question correctly, it's like, are we stealing some of their young people to come over to our department? Now, the people on the panel, sounds like you are doing recruitment throughout a wide area. I don't know if you are getting into another department's demographics or not. Can anybody talk to that?
Actually can. I'm sorry. Brent, would you like to go first?
No, go ahead, Josh.
Because we actually do go some places outside of the city, and our city is surrounded by several smaller fire departments. Typically, it's normally not an issue because those departments don't have a youth hiring program like us. There is one that does, but they only do 1 or 2 people a year, I believe, and I think it's an unpaid apprenticeship. So it's a slightly different program than we offer. For our Explorer post, that actually is something that the director has talked about before, where if other departments have posts, those members are allowed to participate in our post as long as their post director is okay with it. And when we began our recruiting last year for our cadet class, that's one thing that we realized that we had to do was integrate the Explorers, and it literally swelled our Explorer ranks, I think, by almost triple. Where we had, 30 or 40 people who were routinely showing up, it went to well over 100 individuals, in that 2 or 3 month term. Typically, we try to keep a really good relationship with our surrounding departments. I know there was one individual who's actually thinking about starting an Explorer post up in their department, and they're looking at other activities to do. And we're more than happy and willing to share, whatever resources we get in those schools, be it teachers who are really supportive or students who have an interest. And throughout our process, we continue to support those individuals. I always tell kids that, our process is competitive and you may not make it, but that shouldn't stop you from pursuing education. And there are other avenues or other departments around the country that that you may like to pursue. So really try to encourage that communal feeling of it doesn't necessarily have to be the Milwaukee Fire Department. While we'd love to have you, you may find that Miami is a lot nicer than Milwaukee, and you may want to work there more than here. So we're absolutely supportive of that.
Brent, did you have a quick comment?
Yeah,
or Darren?
Okay. Yeah, this is Brent. I had a comment. I was over in Youngstown, Ohio about 2 months ago, and I visited with the Black Firefighter Association there, and the president, she introduced me to a gentleman who's an attorney and a volunteer firefighter in a suburb of Youngstown that's predominantly white, and he was interested, and his department was interested in getting more people of color. So they had talked about coming over to Youngstown to the high schools and recruiting those folks into their department. And I said, well, what else can you do if you don't have that kind of population you're looking for in your community? You have to go someplace else, but you have to just make sure that you're letting those folks know out of courtesy and respect, hey, listen, we're going to be in your town, we're going to be over here doing this because there's a need. And so that was very much welcomed. Here in LA, it's kind of an interesting dynamic between the LA County and city fire departments. We kind of traverse lines all the time. And I'm, as a LA County firefighter, are in the city schools all the time. And we encourage the city fire department to come into the high schools and the county territories all the time to recruit, because we want them to be successful in either department they can get on. When you look at a place like Compton or Long Beach, they have their own fire departments and their own communities. We'll come down and let them know that we're hiring, and we'll always try to work with those folks in the department. And we will not try to come right into a school or into a location and just set up shop in those towns without letting them know, hey, we're here in your place and this is what we're trying to do. But if there's an opportunity of hiring, we try to go everywhere and just be respectful and courteous to those respective departments that we're going to be there.
That's great. Jay, you had a question about word of mouth, and it sounds like that's what everybody's saying. This is Jay Roseberg. Is that correct? Word of mouth is a really great way to be recruiting. Is there anybody who doesn't agree with that?
I agree.
No, not at all. This is Joshua Parish from Milwaukee Fire.
Yep.
We actually, one of our goals in the high school, because we know we're dealing with high school kids, we try to be popular, and we find that especially with the bigger high schools, the more and more we show up, you have kids talking to other kids about how they were interested, why they were interested, and that word of mouth spreads through the high school. And we try to augment that and supplement that with social media, be it Twitter or our Facebook page. We're always trying to get more kids to follow us, more kids to like us on Facebook. And that we have that viral effect that we find is really, really supportive of our recruitment efforts.
Darren?
Yes, I did want to speak to that previous question and the current question about recruiting outside of our area.
Yep.
One thing we do try to do is respect the boundaries that are set up by the council, in which our Explorer posts are a part of. While working with the Boy Scouts of America, there's a council representative that we work closely with, and our council is broken up into districts. So if we ever were to have an interest to recruit outside, we would ask permission and work with that district rep, just out of respect to the other areas. We do allow students from other areas, but we would just communicate with our rep to let them know someone's interested. So that's what we try to do. And of course, the situation that Josh mentioned, if there's a department that doesn't have a program, they're actually very thankful that we exist and recruit in their area. And concerning the question with word of mouth, that also has been successful with us. And what we've done, since there's just only 15 explorers in our post, is we have collaborated with the other emergency service posts. We work closely with EMS and with police explorers. And what we do is we don't downplay anyone's explorer post, but we do share, if we come across someone who's interested in that field, that there's opportunities in all three of those emergency service areas. And then virtual word of mouth using social media has been successful as well.
That's great. Thank you. I know that one of the things that we've seen that works, and this is really a very intentional strategy, and I've heard it work around recruiting of young women. And Melody, I don't know if you can speak to this or not. I have noticed that, especially around high school girls, that there's a lot of cliques, and that there's some peer leaders who have an influence around other young women in their cliques. And so what I heard from a couple of successful Explorer programs that had a number of young women in them was that instead of spending a lot of time trying to recruit a lot of young women, what they did was they found out who some of the peer leaders were at the school. All they had to do was get one or two of those peer leaders, and then the peer leaders ended up recruiting a lot of the other young women that came into the program. Melody, do you have any thoughts on that, being the sole female representative on the panel?
Yeah, I would say that that is definitely a good strategy. In my high school, I think that because it was a magnet program, there weren't as many cliques as I guess most other high schools. But the kids are gonna, I mean, coming from the student perspective, what the instructors are showing us and to recruit us is going to be interesting, but the most interesting thing is going to be what your peers are saying about that program. So I've had classmates come to me and ask me whether, you know, the Fire Academy was really going to be everything they said it was going to be, and whether I really enjoyed it or whether it's a lot of work and no play, I guess. And my classmates really value what I say over what I guess adults say, because I'm in the program and I'm at their level, I'm at that age, and whether I enjoyed my experience or not. So by having students that really enjoy the program and go out and recruit, I think you can really get a lot of other students interested.
That's great. We'd like to take a second to throw up a question and get your response on it. Poll question should pop up on your screen, and we'll pull this together. So how many of you who are on the call, minus the panel members, have a cadet or explorer program? If you could just select yes or no, that would be great. And now we're going to throw up a second question. Thank you for your responses on the first one. And the second question is, if you have a program, is there any kind of incentive that you provide? Josh had talked about you know, creating a pathway into the department. Is there any kind of an incentive that you provide to graduates, maybe testing points or another kind of a path, so that they have any kind of hiring preference? If you could please respond to that. Okay, great. Thank you. And we'll just kind of give you the stats on this before we finish up today. Mark Pound had a question for the people who've got Explorer programs. Is there any kind of financial compensation or remuneration incentive for Explorers coming in and participating in the program, or is it strictly volunteer?
This is Brent Burton, LA County Fire. You know, I wish I could say that we had that for them, but unfortunately, I think our department just went backwards. We used to have a free. The Explorers came into the program. They had to purchase their own uniform, their own boots, etc. And then they went through an Explorer Academy that was 6 weeks long, 6 weekends long, and it was free. Well, when our department experienced budget cuts, now the Explorers themselves have to pay $250 each to go through the program. So the first thing we said on our post, where the kids are, you know, a little more lower income, we said, how's this going to happen? So we had to start working on ideas on fundraisers. My organization has sponsored one of our young men to go through the program. So I wish that we did have some kind of incentive like that. So I think one of the things that I'll be working on in the future here is trying to get partners to come together and to sponsor some of the kids to go through the program. And then eventually we would like to have them get paid similar to the cadet program they have in Milwaukee. It's a real outstanding program.
Brent, are you doing any outside fundraising to make that happen?
Well, we do it with, actually we use explorers and we use the firefighters, and we just kind of go locally in the city and do something really much in, well, I guess you could say it's a partnership. It's a public-private partnership that we do. We did a pancake breakfast at the fire station for the explorers, and we invited everybody to come. That was one way. And I talked to our advisors about going to some of the local clubs and organizations in the city and explain to them about the program and solicit fundraising dollars from that.
Because one of the things that I've shared with people, and I found it to be successful, is, again, if you focus on something that's a little bit bigger than, oh, we're creating a Fire Explorer program or we're creating a cadet program, and you really look at it as a youth development program, that opens up your funding opportunities tremendously. There are local foundations, community foundations that are giving funds to youth development efforts. It allows you to go out to some of the corporate foundations. It allows you to go to service clubs like Rotary and Kiwanis. But again, the focus is bigger than just fire explorers or fire cadets. You're really doing mentoring, you're doing health, you're helping young people to stay out of gangs, and those are some of the hot topics. So it's really looking at the benefits for the young people that create some of the funding opportunities.
You're right. That's a great idea. Great point. Thank you.
Darren?
Yes, I did want to add to that. We don't pay our explorers to be a part of our post monetarily, but we do cover their registration to be a part of the post. We cover their meals. Every event and every meeting that our explorers attend, we feed them. And believe it or not, that's actually a pretty big drawing drawing tool. That's caused a lot of folks to want to be a part as well, because we try to take care of them. Their uniforms they don't have to pay for. Our department is supportive of the post and helps to cover that as well as meals. But we also partner with our department by trying to be self-sufficient. So we are engaged in fundraising activities, and we even have sponsors that help sponsor the activities and meals as well.
So on the poll, 56% of you said that you have programs, and 44% said no. One of the things that I'd like to ask the panel, for the 44% who said no, I'm thinking that they might be interested in getting something started in their department. What inspired you to take the step forward and get something started?
I'd like
Josh?
to jump on there.
Sure. For us, we had a program in existence, and then it kind of went away. And we actually lobbied a lot to get the program back because for us, it was a phenomenal diversity tool. We found that it was actually outpacing some of our traditional general hiring when it came to women and people of color. Of course, funding is really always a challenge. But for us, being it when it was built, in that regard, the city funders were a lot more receptive to that, and that in turn, that proof of concept is what led to our numbers being able to double for 2013. Our Explorer post has been running for quite some time now. We actually have a phenomenal director, and our department actually does support our Explorers with gear, and then they use our facilities. I think the Explorers pay a $10 registration fee, which covers their I think it covers some of the insurance stuff for Learning for Life through the Boy Scouts. But really it is about, developing a good entry-level or pre-entry level tool that works on all the items that you can really assess, and you're able to tweak a lot of things too prior to hiring where you may not be able to do with a general hiring. And you're also able to, like it's been said before, really support those young people in whatever career goals they have. I know a lot of our explorers have actually gone on to other departments. We have some former explorers that we've hired through the Milwaukee Fire Department through either general recruitment or through the cadet program. We have some in neighboring cities, some who are actually in college. So we actually, for some for fire science and some for, nursing or whatever. So we actually do try our hardest in our Explorer program to really make those inroads to whatever career path the participants really want to take.
I think that the thing that I'm really wondering along from that, Josh, is it takes a commitment by the person who steps forward and says, I want to drive this. And
sorry.
I mean, it's time, it's, you know, giving up some time from your family, it's, you know, what inspires you to want to get something started and drive that?
Well, and I have to say, it's really not just me. You know, there was a strong commitment from the department, and then I actually have 2 full-time recruiters who work with, you know, with us in the schools, and it is a lot of time. It is a lot of really unique hours because you find that, you know, people in groups meet at different times, and different schools have different schedules. But all of my recruiters really are focused on presenting youth with good opportunities. One of my recruiters is a former fire cadet. He came through the program, I think, 3 or 4 years after I did. This year we actually went with a recruiter who is a band member. He used to work in the schools. He's fluent in English and Spanish. He's actually from Puerto Rico. And he actually does a phenomenal job with the students and with the parents as well. And it really takes, you know, for them to have that commitment to, you know, either enhancing diversity or exposing young people to opportunities to make it apparent. You know, one compliment we do get a lot in the schools is that our people really have a passion for what they do, and that comes across in, you know, how they present and how they say. When I select recruiters, it isn't based on seniority, it isn't based on rank, it really is based on presentation style. And we find that all of our recruiters, including myself, we all have a story to tell that we want to tell, and the kids, the high schoolers, the parents are really eager to listen to that story, and we kind of sort of try to create a narrative that people want to fit into. And, you know, it's the narrative of our lives, of how we either overcame or how much we enjoy the job or how we found a different career path and how we found our way. And that tends to be, you know, the most encouraging thing of all to the applicants.
Great. Jay asked another question, and that was about non-monetary incentives in terms of ride-alongs. Can one of the panel members kind of respond to that?
Well, this is Brent Burton. I'd like to respond to that. You know, having been a fire explorer and a police explorer, both myself prior to being hired, I always looked at it, and I still do, as, you know, the volunteer hours, what you're learning when you're exposed to these fire service and law enforcement professionals is just priceless. Yes, the ride-alongs are definitely an incentive for our programs, for the Explorer programs in LA, because you have to earn that. You go through a certification process where you have to demonstrate your knowledge and ability to work with the tools and equipment, understand how things are. We talk about safety in briefings, but the kids just love going on those calls, and they love being a part of helping and being inside of that that safety zone, if you will, to see what we're doing at a close-up hand, at a close-up eye level. And the more they're on the calls, the more they see, and the more we talk about them, the more we allow them to do. We allow them to do everything but crawl inside the burning building or go on top of a roof that's on fire. But they can put up ladders, they can connect to the hydrant, they can pull additional hose lines, they can change air bottles for us. And if they're EMT certified, they can even do CPR and, you know, on the way to the hospital on a full arrest type of call. So the kids really live for those types of incentives right there. So if we can't, you know, fund them monetarily, the experience of being in the station, we reiterate that it is a privilege to be inside the firehouse with the firefighters. It's a privilege to be just at the table when we're eating and having this kind of experience, because folks that are older than them trying to get on the job would love to have that experience, and they can't really do it because they're too old to join these Explorer programs. So we can continually reiterate that to the young folks about those incentives of the privilege of riding along and being inside the stations and working along with us to gain all the knowledge and experience prior to them coming on the fire department. They're already there, and they have that knowledge with them, and it just really inspires them.
Thanks, Brent. Darren, you had a quick comment?
Yes, actually I did. Our explorers that are 18 years of age can do ride-outs in our department because of our department's policy. One of our Explorer Post goals is to mimic LA County's system to allow younger trained ride-outs, ridees that are part of the Explorer program. And so we're working on putting together a submission to update our policies to allow that. And you asked a question earlier about why a person would want to do this. What would it take to start a program, because it takes a lot of time. And I just wanted to share what motivated me to get involved. I myself was a Boy Scout growing up as well, and just wanted to give back because it truly affected my life, those that volunteered back then. And I saw the impact that it had, and just wanted to give back as well and mentor someone. Also, myself and my coordinator, co-coordinator, Lieutenant Andre, we both have sons, young sons, that we bring to many of the activities and meetings so they can see the older teenagers that are a part. So it's a mentoring process here, giving back ourselves and then also our children being exposed as well.
That's great. One of the things, you mentioned about mentoring and giving back. Melody, you've been through the program. Did it help you in terms, did you have a mentor and anything that's helped you now as you're pursuing a career in the fire service?
Definitely. While we weren't assigned specific mentors, I definitely had a mentor-type relationship with at least a couple of my instructors, and they helped me a lot through the Fire Academy as well as with any personal advice I needed. And now that I am trying to get into the Austin Fire Department, I reached out to a lot of my instructors, and there's a limit to how much they can tell me about the actual process, but all of them had really great tips, and without their advice, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't have made it this far. So I would definitely say that I had mentors that helped me get to where I am now.
That's great. Let me keep you in the hot seat for just a second, Melody, if you don't mind. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, who are the best people to be instructors for Explorer and Cadet programs? From the student side, what are some of the qualities that you found in the instructors that were really engaging, that really made a difference for you in the classroom and out in the field?
One of the things that I connected most with the instructors that were committed, because they were the ones that were there every day, and you could build a relationship with the instructors that are always there and who are willing to work for you and will spend extra time working for you no matter what it is you need. And then another thing that I found important was diversity, because as a female myself, I identified most with the female instructors, and I know that there's a lot of minority, like in our classroom at least, there were a lot of minorities, and they identified with minority instructors as well. So I think having a diverse group of instructors helps, because each student will identify with a different instructor.
Which I think is very, very important, and for any of the departments that are on this call right now, to really make sure that you're thinking through who that instructor base is. And as Melody said, if you want to be recruiting more young women into your Explorer and Cadet programs, that you make sure that you're looking at getting female instructors who are really committed. It's not just because I think, Melody, what you said is it's also about somebody's enthusiasm and their commitment to the students. So it's really a balance there, but to make sure, if you want to have young women in your programs, that you find a woman instructor who's really passionate about the program and about the students. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of challenges, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced in getting a program started, and maybe even more important, sustaining the program? Anybody on the panel?
Well, I know for us, this is Joshua Parish from the Milwaukee Fire Department. Really in the sustenance, one of my goals in directing the recruiting is really try to get an accurate census representation of our city in our applicant pool. And some populations I found are just a lot more difficult, and we've really worked to try to identify those, the reasons for that difficulty. And we found some actually very interesting things. For instance, in our first year of recruitment, we weren't making a positive impact in the Latino community. We were really trying to rack our brains why. And we realized that in our local media, we don't have any Latino firefighter who are PIOs, so they don't do a lot of coverage of our events in the media, on our news station. So we lost a lot of exposure there, not having that outlet. So this year, what we did was we really focused on getting one of our recruiters, Carlos, into the media, be it news and radio, and having him have a presence so that when kids went home with the idea, their parents, knew something or had some kind of background, and realized that that just wasn't there. Same thing, we have a pretty large Hmong population here in our city as well, and I think it's composed of about 3 clans, and we're really trying hard to establish relationships with these populations and with these groups, and it takes a lot of time. There are some relationships in our community that I've literally been working on for 3 years to get people at a place where they truly, genuinely believe that we are trying to do things in their best interest. And maintaining those relationships does take some effort. It will be, showing up on weekends, showing up on evenings, showing up to events, and really, being conversational, letting that enthusiasm show through. So that can be a challenge for some departments if, like I said, you don't have the people or the staff with the special communication or cultural skills to really, understand it and make those inroads. And then, of course, there's always funding. I think everybody's on the panel has kind of talked to funding in some way, shape, or form. And some departments have the funds, some departments don't. And some cities, have decided to invest the funds, in addition to their department's budgets. And it's really because that individuals have started programs that are successful, that are showing success, that are showing promise. And departments or cities are looking at these programs as a way to, to do targeted recruitment, to offer those inroads, not just for youth programs, but also for general recruitment. And being able to really have, and this kind of be more one of those solutions to the issue, but being able to have numbers that justify your program's worth, so that when you go to funding agencies or when you go to the city agency and say, hey, I have something here that is effective, and it's effective to this point, and here is a price tag for it, and it's just cheaper than some other avenues that you may go into, or it's worth the investment. We found for us that that has really, really been effective in our long-term sustainability for our program.
Yeah, this is
Darren?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Darren, did you have a quick
yes,
thought?
I did. I wanted to respond to that as well. As far as the challenges, in the beginning, it was identifying the true resources available, so we didn't find ourselves reinventing the wheel. Of course, the Learning for Life and the Boy Scouts of America, they provided some assistance as far as there's an online guide, a leader's guide, and things like that. But what we did was actually reference best practices across the nation. We actually went out to like LA County and looked at Captain Burton's programs and actually talked with him to see how things are done, so we didn't waste time and effort and things like that. The other challenge we had was the funding, so we had to get the department buy-in, and in order to overcome that, we had to show that we had a solid plan. It was similar to applying for a business loan. We had to have an actual business plan to run this program and show that we had committed staff assigned to this program so the department would support us. And what I mean by that is like letting them know we have plans to obtain CERT training, which is offered through FEMA, a youth CERT program that we're going to have our stores a part of, a drug nexus, which is incorporated into our goals and our objectives. Things like that really helped with department buy-in, and it overcame those challenges with starting our post.
Brent?
Yeah, Brent Burton, LA County. We're very fortunate in LA. I did a lot of research on our program, and it really started way back in 1965 after 65 Rise to Explore programs. And I was digging across some old pictures, And I found a young man that I recognized in that picture who was one of my mentors when I was an Explorer. He was he was in this picture, and I went to him. He was it was the end of his career. He said it was the last day on the job. You better come now. And I said, okay. I went to his station, showed him the picture, and he started trying to point out some of those guys in the picture, but he couldn't recall where they are. And so our track record is pretty good that we've had the program for so long that it runs on autopilot. But in terms of challenges, I would say tracking students. And I bring that story up because he couldn't recall where some of those guys were anymore. And I recognize him because he looked almost the same. But he wished he would have, kept in touch with these guys, or there was some kind of mechanism to track where these guys are now. And even to this day, I think it's important that we look at tracking some of the young men and young women that we have, because some kids do fade in and fade out of our programs. There are the exceptions like Melody that's on a mission and doing real good, and I'm real proud of her and want to support her. But there are some great kids there that sometimes some things may go on at home or some things may go on in their life, and they kind of just fade away from our program. And our program could have been much more supportive of them individually had we known about all these issues, because we kind of just have a tendency to help the masses. So I would say a good tracking and support system for some of the students to find out where they are now, where some of those kids from 5 years, 10 years ago, where are they now, and how can we support and help them. That could be a good angle to work from. In LA, we don't have some of the challenges that the other departments have that are starting their programs, or they're kind of recent because they're on autopilot. They've been around for a while, and they kind of much are ingrained in our departments, and there's always support that pretty much never go away as far as the way I look at it. But as far as the individual kids, we really need to work on a better support system of tracking them.
So quick question, Melody, are you using social media? Are you on Facebook with some of the former LBJ students?
Yes, yeah, I'm friends with quite a few of them.
Okay, and so what do you think about, if somebody gets a program started, they get everybody doing some Facebook work, or at least connecting people through social media? Is that a strategy to be able to stay in touch with graduates?
Yes, social media is a great tool to use in tracking or recruiting and keeping in touch. It's also, I think social media can also be a little bit risky because I guess if you have a group and certain people like it, and then the group is linked to those people, and their profiles aren't necessarily, I guess, censored enough for the public eye, then it can be really tricky. So I would say yes, it's a great tool, but it's also, something that you need to really pay attention to if you're going to use it.
Great. Darren?
Yes. One tool that one way we use that social media tool with Facebook is we actually created a group for the LBJ Academy, and I want to echo that it's really awesome to see Melody going into the fire service career as one of the lead instructors there and founding instructors. This is what we were doing all the work for, to actually have someone come back into the fire service. And with social media, we can keep in touch with those that are going off to get some of the college hours that are necessary to come into the department. Of course, our LBJ Fire Academy offers some of those college hours necessary, but we do keep in touch. We do try to continue to mentor, and we monitor. We have to manage that group to address some of those concerns that Melody had mentioned, to make sure that it is a productive, positive tool.
We want to start wrapping up. We got a question about Boy Scouts, and are your programs focused on any other youth groups like Girl Guides or outreach? So I'd like, real quickly, if you can address that. But one of the things that I'd just like if one of you could kind of clarify this is that there has been some issues around starting Explorer programs. The Explorers are connected to the Boy Scouts, and that there was the big sexual orientation issue where the Boy Scouts said that they did not want any LGBT members. They didn't want any Boy Scout leaders who were LGBT. But that's not really what Explorers is about. I don't think that Explorers has that same position. Can any members of the panel just quickly make a comment about that?
This is Brent, Burton in LA.
Mm-hmm.
What happened is, it was real interesting with the city of Los Angeles because of that whole issue with the Explorers, and I'm glad you touched on it. It caused them to pull away from the exploring scouting system and do their own internal program, because, you know, earlier in the conversation you talked about cadets and explorers, what the difference was. Well, in Los Angeles, in the LA City Fire Department and LA Police Department, they totally changed the whole name from explorers to cadets, and it's the same thing. But in LA County, we maintained the same relationship with the Boy Scouts of America and also Learning for Life, and we still kept the name Explorers. We didn't change it. But in LA, it caused them, that whole issue, to change the whole name and move away from Explorers altogether. And so that was kind of a real interesting piece that happened with that.
Darren?
Yes, I also would like to speak to that. We actually had an issue come up with one of our potential sponsors. They were going to sponsor us, and when they saw Boy Scouts mentioned on our website, then they said, well, we're going to have to pull out. So the way we addressed that was we actually showed them that we fall under the Learning for Life program, and the Learning for Life national website has a statement that states that they do not discriminate against sexual orientation, gender, race, or any of those things, or faith. And so we forwarded that to them, and it made a big difference to where they did become one of our sponsors. And we let them know that we do partner with the Boy Scouts, but we fall under Learning for Life, and we don't discriminate in that manner.
That's great. One final question from the participants. Jay had asked about competition for student time. Jay, if I understand the question correctly, that this takes time away from their school or extracurricular activities that they might already be involved in. Some kids might miss classes. Do you run into any problems at all? And Melody, maybe this is something for you to address, seeing you were in this program, I think in the LBJ program, 2 hours a day. Did student grades suffer?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, it's showing up as muted on my screen. I don't think that grades suffered. There is, you have to manage your time no matter what classes you are taking in high school. And having the LBJ Fire Academy as an actual class, a class period is assigned to that, helps because it's not solely extracurricular. It is actually part of your schedule. The one thing that was challenging, though, was that because of, since we were at a high school, we didn't have all the equipment necessary for all the training. So we did have to have extra Saturday skills days on the weekend to get some training done that we couldn't necessarily do at the high school. And I know that every now and then we would, there would be conflicts with, like a swimming team thing that I was involved in the Fire Academy. And for those, I just always, let the Academy know beforehand that I had a conflict coming up, and they always did a great job working around our extracurricular activities, and there would be make-up Saturday skills days to help deal with that. But it is just like any other class. You just have to budget your time, and then grades don't really suffer because of it. Grades will suffer if you just don't manage your time wisely.
Melody, did any of the instructors at LBJ help students with other classes?
Yes and no. I think if the instructor felt capable of helping in that subject, they would, I mean, the instructors were always willing to do, to help you out with whatever you needed, but they also didn't want to overstep the boundaries that, you know, like, oh, let me help you with calculus if they weren't confident in their, you know, that subject's skills. So they were always there to help you if you needed it, but not all of them, I guess, felt confident enough in each subject to actually give tutoring in that subject. So.
That's great. So I'd like to give each of the panel members an opportunity if you've got any closing comments at all, so we can wrap this up and respect everybody's time. Darren, you want to go first?
Sure. One thing I did want to share, looking at what the purpose of this webinar is to mention something that's been very helpful here in the last 6 months or so with our post, and that is collaborating with the other emergency service posts. In many cases, folks would think we're in competition, but when speaking with the other post coordinators, they run into some of the exact challenges we're talking about on this webinar. And so once we decided to work together, it really improved our efficiency. We had a field day just 2 weeks ago where we actually went out in the post, participated in physical activities, and it was great. The kids loved it, and they spread the word to their students, their peers, and that caused a couple other explorers to want to join our post. Just that one event, which we collaborated with the other groups because they saw the competition and they fed off that. So just to encourage that collaboration, and I'm talking fundraising, I'm talking trips like the National Explorer Competition that happens biannually. We're looking at chartering a bus together, which is going to be cheaper, and it doesn't fall on one post. Things like that is just tremendous. And even working with getting the FEMA certification, teaching all the required training, it really helps. And that's just one of the last things I wanted to share to encourage folks to do, and to let the reins go a little bit and work together.
That's great. Thank you. Brent?
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you, Larry, and everybody else for making this possible. This has been great. Excuse me. Excuse me. You always have to have a dialogue about this because it's real important to listen to what folks are doing. And I took away a few things from this. And the phrase youth development program, Larry, you mentioned, that is, I think that's key in trying to get the dollars out there that are needed from these various groups. But I think the Explorer program is just a phenomenal program. I'm a product of it. My son is a product of it. It's been going on for a long time here in Los Angeles, and we're glad to see that many other departments are embracing the program and doing more things with it, like Milwaukee with the cadet program and like what Austin's doing with the LBJ Academy. And also I had a friend of mine from New York City Fire Department come out to LA, and he told me about the FDNY High School Fire Academy they have, which is great. I think that's the trend of more of the high school programs to really engage our young folks. And also, when you go down to the elementary school and middle school levels, we have to just start there at the 4th grade level with those kids, because when the kids are in kindergarten and 3rd grade, they learn to read, and when they're 4th grade on, they read to learn. And so we have to make sure that we're exposing them to things that engage them in reading, engage them in these kind of activities, and expose them to positive adults that are in these professions so that they don't lose sight of a dream and a goal of becoming a firefighter or a police officer or any other type of positive, productive citizen in their local community. So I think it's real good that we're doing this and having this dialogue, and I think we need to make this something that's ongoing. So I really appreciate everybody's time and efforts, and Larry, what you're doing in 2020 is a great thing. So I want to just say hats off to everybody, and thank you for allowing me to participate.
Josh?
You know, I know when we were researching our program, you know, I know that Darren has spoken on too, we talked a lot about best practices, and one of the things that I kind of did differently was I looked at a lot of worst practices, what a lot of departments were doing that wasn't successful and wasn't fruitful, and tried to really avoid all those same pitfalls. And I know that that Brent brought it up a second ago when we were talking about tracking, and that was something that we really wanted to have a strong component on to work on, especially for us, those no-show rates, the people who drop out of the program, to make sure that we had cell phones, emails, know what schools they came from, know people at the schools who were able to support them, so we could really support a big pool of people all the way through our process, And then even after they leave the process, whether it's successful or not, the people who weren't fire cadets from last year still get emails from me that still encourage them to, to pursue school, and if they're looking at the fire service, to do things like that as well. And I know even on the research thing, in the summer when we're off our recruiting season, we even do, focus groups with young women, with parents, with just moms, just dads, to really get their perspectives of not really why their kids may want to enter a fire service career, but what they would consider a successful career for their children, and we kind of work backwards from there. And like I said, we try to be really research-driven and really data-driven. My wife is a nurse, so we're really big on evidence-based practice and really integrating those things into our recruitment program, and then further on into our training program with some of the different things we're trying to pilot now. So really having that good solid foundation of those items is a really, really good tool. And one thing I wanted to bring up too, when they were talking about the tracking, even with our, with our explorers, we try to do supplemental information as well. So when I found out that other area departments are hiring, we will send or try to make available information to send groups of explorers or past explorers so that the departments to seek other employment opportunities, because we might not be hiring that year. And it's a really powerful tool to keep people interested in the fire service. And some of those people may end up coming back to you years and years later. So really engaging your target populations and holding on to them with the good solid communication for years is really, really effective.
Melody, we saved the best for last.
Well, I wanted to say thank you to you, Larry, for inviting me to be a panelist on this webinar, and I did want to say thank you to all the participants as well, and for everyone who's trying to or has started an Explorer program. These programs really do make a difference, and for me it's opened up a whole new career path, but it's not, I don't think success is only measured by the students that go through these programs and decide to become a firefighter. I think that, as I said to Larry before, that students learn so much more from these programs, and I know that I learned life skills such as pushing myself mentally and physically, and being a leader and being a follower, working within a team, and so much more. Like even how to give a firm handshake has really actually made a difference in getting to where I am now. So thanks again for everything, and good luck to everyone starting and running Explorer programs now.
That's perfect. Thank you. And I guess my final thought before I turn it over to Cammie to close things up is that this again is a strategy for growing the next generation of fire and emergency services personnel. It is a strategy for growing qualified, inclusive, diverse, and safety-conscious firefighters and emergency responders. This is not, we did talk a little bit about numbers on how you're doing with women and minorities, but ultimately becoming a more diverse department is not at all about the numbers. It's about being able to truly serve your whole community. And if you get pushbacks, that's the place that we need to take people is, as we discovered with this last election, our whole country is becoming more and more diverse. And when we recruit qualified, diverse people into our departments, and again the key word is qualified, that we are going to be more flexible and do a better job of serving the growing diversity of our country. So thank you for your time. Cammie, let me turn it back over to you for just some closing thoughts and what's coming up.
All right, so thank you to everyone who participated in our panel. I want to say thank you again to our amazing panelists. We really appreciate your time and all the effort you've put into our program today. If you do have any additional questions, please feel free to email us here at ff@fire2020.org. We will send any questions that we receive to our panelists so that we can get some written responses out to you. Notes and a recording of the webinar will be available to all of the attendees, and we will send that out to you within the next week. In our materials section, we also have some materials that our panelists put together about their programs. We have a diagram about the programs going on in LA County, some examples of flyers and posters, and more was going to be uploaded and will be available to you shortly. We do have a couple of quick questions for you. The first question should be on your screen now. Just please let us know if you thought that you can apply the information from this online training session. We'll give you a minute to answer that question for us. We do appreciate your response, and it does help us as we continue to work and improve our online training series. All right, thank you for your responses. We have one more quick question for you. Would you attend another one of our Fire 2020 online training sessions? Please let us know. We want to make sure that we are having an interactive and informative session so we can continue to improve our webinars. All right, so once again, thank you to everyone who attended. We do have another Recruiting and Retaining Diversity online training series session that will be next month. Our training session is going to be about LGBT recruitment and retention, welcoming untapped sources of qualified, inclusive, diverse, safety-conscious firefighters. And that is going to be on Wednesday, December 5th. On our panelists, we do have Fire Chief of the Cheer Fire Department and the Volunteer Fire Chief of the Year, Jonah Olson. We also have Captain Lana Moore from Columbus Division of Fire, and we also have Brent Dunkel, author of American Heroes Coming Out from Behind the Badge, and firefighter and paramedic at Broward County Sheriff's Office. If you do want to register for this webinar, you can visit our website. And we'll also send you a link in the email that we send out to you next week. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Scott Safety, and our supporters, PBI, Lion Chincada, and Motorola Foundation for helping make this all possible. That's all that we have for you today. Please look forward to the email with the recording notes and materials. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks for having me.